جمرة الخير هلا حني قلبي على جمرة الخير هلا يا هلا ويا هلا ويا هلا ويا هلا يا هلا ويا هلا ويا.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to another edition of Let's Talk this Saturday morning. And of course, it's that time of year. Everyone's preparing for the holidays, thinking about their amazing destinations. And some of us will be driving down to our destinations. That means we need to have discussions and we need to plan our trips and also think through issues that we might encounter on the road. Last year this time we had Advocate Johan Jonk all the way from Bloemfontein to come in and talk to us about Arrive Alive, and this year as a concerned TV organization, a TV station, we are doing our bit as far as community upliftment and community news is concerned by bringing you these type of stories so that we can help you have a very, very safe trip to and back from your destination. Advocate Johan Jonk, the founding member of Arrive Alive, all the way from Bloemfontein, is here to talk to us about how we can be safe this holiday season. Johan, good morning. Welcome back to ITV Studios.
It's really nice to be with you. I must say on the positive side, at least last year with December road fatalities showed an 11% reduction from the 2017 numbers. So it was a bit of a reduction, but still it is still horrific on our roads.
Absolutely.
We still have way too many crashes, and we have a long way to go.
And of course, apart from the festive season being upon us, we've heard of all the other horrific accidents all around the country. School children, buses, trucks, etc. And that was pre the festive season. So we're going to talk about how people can be safe on the roads this time around. And before we get there, tell us about, there is a story behind how you founded Arrive Alive. It's a sad story, but something good has come out of it. You are here to create awareness and perhaps save lives in the interim.
Yes, I lost my mum in a car crash when I was 2 years, 10 months old. We were also in the car actually on a Sunday, and she asked my dad if she could drive. We were on the way to her parents near Mossel Bay, and then the tire burst and the vehicle rolled. Now that was always kind of at the back of my mind. I went to study law in Bloemfontein, BUris LLB, lectured a little bit in criminal law. But then I thought to myself, this road safety issue was the whole time was in my head, and I thought to myself, having compiled study guides, I think I can create a quality information portal to create awareness of road safety. And it is a labor of love. It's something that I'm very passionate about. And I believe that an informed road user is a safer road user. So if we can share information, even if we save 1 or 2 lives, we've made a difference. And that's the reason behind it. We get frustrated as well. I always say, if I had to measure my success just on road fatality numbers, I would be so depressed. But if I can see at least that a lot of people find the information and there is a change in driving behavior of some of our motorists, at least then we're achieving something.
Your tagline says road deaths are no accident.
Yes.
Just explain that to us.
We always use the words commonly, accidents, crashes and collisions. And in the road safety environment, a lot of the NGOs, a lot of the road safety authorities have stated quite clearly that too many of these crashes are not accidents. An accident is something which could not be foreseen. But when you crash and you've been driving too fast, you've been driving drunk, you've been taking chances, it's really not an accident because it can be foreseen. Then we must just refer to a crash or a collision.
So what you're suggesting is that it was carelessness on the part of the driver or the drivers.
Correct.
Okay, so Arrive Alive has been going strong for quite a few years, all thanks to you, Advocate Johan Jonk. This is a 365-day a year job for you. But in other parts of the world, Australia, for example, I know they too battled with the issue of accidents, collisions, deaths, etc. And they adopted a shock tactic approach by having very graphic photographs on all the highways. Do you think that could work here?
I must perhaps also emphasize that the bit that I do is only the online side. So the lead road agencies for Road Traffic Management Corporation, they do a lot of the other advertisements and stuff, but I will do everything I can online. Now, there is a little bit of a debate around the shock tactics as well. Some people say that we should focus more on the value of human life and not so much the shock tactics, but we've also seen that it is like movies. For a horror movie may work for somebody, but other people just don't want to watch it. We know from experience that when somebody has passed a scene of a road crash, the behavior is immediately impacted for, let's say, the next 20 minutes or the next 10 kilometers.
Only.
Yeah, and when it goes down again to your normal scenarios. We also used a variety of tactics. For instance, 2 years ago, I had an agency that designed for us you're a killer if you text and drive. That kind of campaign, which is also hard-hitting. But we need to be cautious when it comes to sharing too horrific visuals. Just last week, there was a horrific crash in Zimbabwe between two buses.
That's right.
Where I think 47 people died.
Exactly.
And I received the video, but where you could see body parts lying around. And that's something where I just immediately told my programmer and assistant as well, we don't share something like that. We even have content on the website with regards to titled Professionalism and Ethics in Reporting from the Scene of a Road Crash. Stuff that you can share and stuff that you should not share.
Okay, so that being said, everyone's now preparing for this long trek down to the coast. Everyone's in anticipation for a very, very wonderful holiday at the seaside or wherever it is that they're going. What should they be concerned about? How do they prepare for this long trek on the road? I'm thinking in terms of family safety, I'm thinking vehicle safety, I'm thinking about other road user safety, and we'll get to the mountain passes in a minute or two. So what is it, apart from just thinking about your destination and the great time you're going to have at the seaside, how do you prepare and get your mental frame right to hit that road?
Yeah. I think exactly like you said, you need to get your mental frame right. Now, I want to give you a few examples perhaps. We shared quite a few animations this year on your basic road safety steps, which I'm glad to say that ITV Networks are also airing.
Thank you, yes.
Now, for instance, last year in July, 18 people died in a crash near Machadodorp when a truck driver fell fatigued behind the wheel. And the company then whose workers died in this crash asked us to spend specific effort on driver tiredness and fatigue. So if you go on the long road, it's important to ensure that you are well rested before you start your journey. Your body has a biological clock. You simply need to rest. So we say every 2 hours, take a little break, take a rest, stop. And then also you need to be alert behind the wheel, not distracted, and be ready to take evasive action or preventative measures. If we look at the crash statistics, I always refer to the kind of low-lying fruit, the stuff that we can easily address to address fatalities. The first one is pedestrian fatalities. Pedestrians amount to, last year it was 57% of our road death toll. It's always about between 35 and 40% of our road deaths. And if we know that, we need to know that we need to be cautious in areas of pedestrian activity. Slow down. If you are driving fast, you don't have enough time and space to respond to a pedestrian running across the road, or a pedestrian who may be intoxicated running or stumbling across the road. So that's the first thing. We also share tips with our pedestrians to show that they must be visible, must be seen, must not be on the highway, must not run across roads and stuff. But
and yet you see it all the time.
Yeah, unfortunately we do. But as a driver, what we can do as motorists, allow yourself the time and space to respond in an emergency. Then a very important thing as well is the wearing of seat belts.
Hold that thought.
Yeah.
We're going to come back right after the ad break. Advocate Johan Jonk, all the way from Bloemfontein, Arrive Alive, is here to talk to us about how we can be safe on the roads this holiday period, not only for ourselves but also for the opposite party. We're going to try and take an in-depth look at road fatalities and Arrive Alive. So stay with us. Welcome back, and we're all in preparation for the holiday period. That also means a lot of us are going to be preparing for the Great Trek, and the Great Trek obviously is to the coastal regions of the country and possibly other places as well. Uppermost on our minds should be Arrive Alive. Johan, you were talking about safety belts and seat belts, obviously before we went for the ad break.
Now, very important, the wearing of seat belts. Last year we saw a nice reduction in road deaths amongst passengers. Now, a paramedic has once said that they very seldom have to unbuckle a dead person after a road crash. It is
suggesting that they weren't wearing seat belts.
Yeah. So that is one of the best ways to reduce road deaths and to reduce serious injury. Now, by law, it's very important that we emphasize, if babies are between birth and 3 years, they must be in a car seat, and from there every person in the vehicle must be buckled up. Not only the driver and the front seat passenger, but also all the passengers on the back seat. That is a very important thing to consider. And also, you know, when we go on holiday, you find that a lot of people are sitting with their legs on the dashboard. If you consider that the airbag explodes or goes out at a speed of 300 kilometers an hour, you can just consider those risks and dangers. So always remember, your airbag is just a secondary restraint. You must be buckled up and ensure that all your passengers are buckled up as well.
Let's look at the issue around, obviously, speed kills, as Arrive Alive has been advocating for years on end. How do you kind of get that very important message into the minds of drivers? And also, very importantly, is it seems as if people are so impatient to get to their destination. They don't enjoy the journey, and it's that journey that they're meant to be enjoying, which probably will be ending their lives because they're speeding.
I think it's very important. A lot of people often criticize us to say, but listen, speed does not kill, because why will you have all these Formula 1 racers? Why don't they all die? I think it's very important to focus not only on speed as a speeding violation, but also driving at an unsafe speed. Sometimes you can drive at a very dangerous speed, well below the speed limit, but the traffic conditions, the road conditions and the weather conditions require that you limit your speed, that you reduce your speed. We find that most of the vehicle rollovers that we have are not only vehicles being overloaded, but also people taking a corner or a bend at the wrong speed. When we drive in bad weather, for instance, there is poor visibility, you have to reduce your speed. So it's very important to emphasize that the speed that you drive at determines the braking distance that you will require. In a case of emergency, it will also have a huge impact on the time available for yourself to take preventative measures. So that is why speed is of the utmost importance.
Let's assume this driver is going to drive from Johannesburg to Cape Town for the first time in his life. He doesn't know the terrain, he's going to follow Google Maps or whatever. How important is it for him to understand the different hazards on the road? And then we also come to the issue around mountain passes, which obviously in that part of the world you have a lot of those. What ought you be doing when you reach mountain passes or mountainous terrain for that matter?
I think first thing is obey all the rules of the road. So we find a lot of crashes caused by people who are impatient and they overtake in an unsafe manner. We always say, before you overtake, ask, is it legal? Is it safe? Is it necessary? If it's a barrier line and it's not legal, you simply cannot. Even if it is not a barrier line and you can legally pass, then you have to ask yourself, is it safe? Is there enough distance for me to pass? We share just this week, you may have seen on Twitter as well, a crash that often happens over December holidays, where you find a slow moving vehicle behind the truck. And when you find these big fast vehicles, with multiple vehicle overtakers. So the driver in this slow moving vehicle behind the truck, he sees in his mirror a specific vehicle behind him. But when these faster vehicles pass several vehicles at a time, and right at that moment when the vehicle behind the truck believes it's now my turn to pass, that fast moving vehicle is in his blind spot and it's a side swipe crash. So that we often find. We need to be a lot more patient.
And vigilant.
Yeah, and vigilant. Check for your blind spots as well. When we talk about mountainous areas as well, of course extreme patience, because a lot of these trucks have difficulty going up and going down. And when trucks have a huge blind spot around them, where they cannot see vehicles. It's interesting that about 70% of truck-car collisions can be blamed on cars. You will see when cars drive from a highway onto the off-ramp, often they try to squeeze in between to get to the traffic light before the truck, finding themselves exactly in the blind spot of trucks. So when we talk about mountains as well, extreme patience required. Remember that trucks have blind spots and they can't turn or go around bends as easy as normal vehicles. Drive at a safe speed, give yourself time and space, breathe, relax a little bit, you will also get there. Yes.
Just have a bit of patience. Yeah. In terms of the holiday period, I'm wondering if government, local governments and provincial cannot perhaps put in some rules to try and get as many trucks off the roads at that time of year, just to create a safer environment for holiday makers.
Yeah, I think it is a very difficult scenario because unfortunately our road freight in South Africa has become a massive part of our whole logistics system. And I know the Ministry of Transport is looking at rail to take a lot of these vehicles from the road. Now, interestingly, I've been on the N3 between Joburg and Pietermaritzburg. At least 50% of all the vehicles on that road are trucks. And if at Van Reenens, at one of the spots where we will always attend, they put up a special office there for the festive season. And they've said that if you sleep there at night and for 5 minutes you don't hear a truck, you know something happened. There's a blockage somewhere, a crash might have happened. But it would be nice. But it's going to be a logistical nightmare at the moment, yeah.
Right.
Also, we were talking about driving hours at the moment. Just on driving hours for trucks to take them certain times off the road. Then already you must have sufficient truck spots in place. You know, with crime at the moment and the looting of trucks who have broken down or been in an accident, it is extremely difficult for truck drivers already. And they can't just at a specific time just decide, listen, I'm going to pull off next to the road and be safe. Unfortunately, crime is having such a huge impact on road safety in South Africa. And if I may, I want to give you two examples. On pedestrian safety, we build pedestrian bridges. We want pedestrians not to run across the road, but to use the pedestrian bridge. When you ask the people, but why don't you use the pedestrian bridge? They answer, if we climb up on this side, we don't know what's waiting for us on the other side. The AA had a nice initiative this year, the Automobile Association and some other companies, handing out reflective sachets. So pedestrians, especially kids, can be more visible, so they can wear these reflective sachets. When they do a survey, they ask people, we handed out these sachets, but why don't you wear it? They answer, we don't want to be too visible. We feel that we may be targeted. We may stand out amongst other people. So crime, unfortunately, has such a huge impact. And it's not only the hijackings that we find, or the theft of vehicles, the cash in transit heists, or the smash and grabs. It's all these other things as well. It is the theft of guardrails, which is there to protect. It's the theft of lighting, copper cables, making our traffic lights not work. We also need to address crime if we ultimately want to reduce significantly road deaths.
You mentioned timing of the trip, your journey. So when you're planning your journey, whether it's to Durban or Cape Town, what would you suggest? And I know you're going to say the driver must be absolutely certain that he's well rested and preferably have two drivers so you can take over when the one gets tired. But what's the best time to start traveling, very especially with your family?
The most dangerous time on the road, or with the most crashes, normally occurs either early in the morning before sunset.
Why? Before sunrise?
Yeah, before sunrise, yeah. Because a lot of the drivers, especially our truck drivers, those who've gone through the night, are tired. Their eyes are kind of dreary, or I don't know what the word is for it. Kind of heavy, fatigue is a problem. Then also late at night, and especially weekends, is still a problem, but purely because you find people who are intoxicated. Also, a lot of your pedestrians are intoxicated at those times, so those are the most difficult times. I always say, as long as you know that you are well rested, that you can be very alert, and also allow yourself extra time. Don't book to be at some place at 7 o'clock at night. Now you find some road works, or you find a specific crash, there's been a hold up, and now you have to make up time to be at a specific time at your destination. Allow yourself some extra time. And as you said also, enjoy the journey.
Absolutely.
Don't make it a race.
Let's go for another ad break. We'll be back talking some more about Arrive Alive, or arriving alive at your destination. We're still talking road safety and Arrive Alive with Advocate Johan Jonk. Obviously, it's that time of year, it's holiday time. We're all in holiday mode, and we do tend to throw caution to the wind. Johan was in studio with us last year. This time he's back again, and it's his civic responsibility and our duty as well to create the awareness, and hope and pray, inshallah, common sense prevails and that everybody reaches their holiday destination and back home safe and sound, and there isn't any loss of life or limb. And we're hoping and praying that this year we can bring the statistics down even further. I'm sure that's a fervent wish and prayer of yours as well.
No, definitely.
Let's look at the issue around, we're always blaming the taxi drivers, are we not? In collaboration with AA and other such parties, and you as Arrive Alive, because you do play a huge role in road safety, is there anything on the cards as far as education to taxi drivers are concerned, because they're chasing fares all the time?
Yes. There is constant consultation between the major taxi bodies like Santaco and the Road Traffic Management Corporation. I know in Welkom, Santaco is providing driver training to some of these taxi drivers. It is a cutthroat industry, and as you say, a lot of them, the drivers are paid per trip that they do. And it is, I know Johannesburg Metro Police at the moment is also looking into scrapping a lot of these unroadworthy vehicles, which is a step in the right direction. But I think we also need to show a little bit of patience and not to get too involved in incidents of road rage.
Well, how do you prevent, let's assume that there's a possibility that a road rage incident will happen because someone's overtaken you or whatever, and however these issues start?
We have on the website a so-called 10-point plan as well. But it's basically around, you need to breathe, you need to relax, and you need to remember that conflict can only continue to exist with participation. So
step
brief,
away.
Let the person rather do his thing. Protect yourself. You never know whether that person is stable. You never know whether he is armed. it may not be a fair fight if you want to challenge somebody like that. Brief and ensure, remember, your safety is of the utmost importance. Protect you and your loved ones or people in your vehicle. We nowadays have dashboard cameras that can assist. I know in the last few months there was a classic incident of this one taxi driver was driving against the wrong side of the road as well. Dashboard camera recorded him. They actually went to confiscate that vehicle. The JMPD addressed that. So we can use technology, we can assist traffic enforcement, but remember that traffic enforcement lies in the hands of traffic officers. There's very little that you can do in terms of enforcement. Don't challenge somebody. I always say you never know whether somebody is bipolar, whether somebody is in a unstable state of mind at that moment.
Drunk, high, whatever.
Rather look after your loved ones and your own safety.
Okay, and I know that the automobile... the AA would have been the ideal people to ask this question to, but I have no doubt in my mind that you're well prepared as well. What are the few tips, the main tips that you can give to drivers who are preparing to hit the long road in terms of their car preparation? What would they be?
Vehicle roadworthiness is very important. So first of all, ensure all the basic components like your tires, your windscreen wipers, your lights, have a basic checkup. A lot of the AA sometimes does it, and also some of the vehicle manufacturers allow for free testing before the December holidays. Have a look whether your vehicle manufacturer is not perhaps able to provide that for you. But check your basic vehicle components, that everything is ready. Also know if something goes wrong, who are you going to contact? Have your emergency numbers on your phone. The national numbers, know them. 10177, 112 if you call from your cell phone. There's also nowadays a lot of emergency apps. There's also a lot of these medical companies who provide services. But prepare, write it down, have it on your phone. Ensure that your phone is fully charged. If an emergency situation arrives, that you can't find help immediately. Do that as part of your preparation before you go on holiday. But we will also on the website make available, and we can share it on your network as well, all the basic tips. We have specific sections just around the festive season, and then we will on our Twitter handle, on our Facebook page and on the site, we will continuously share information.
Is there anything else of importance that you'd like to share as far as safety for the drivers and road users is concerned?
I think most important, ensure that you are fit and ready to drive. You don't have a big party or a long stay-up evening before you drive. Start your journey well rested. You
know what young people are doing these days? As you say, big party at night. They hit the road early in the morning or in the middle, after 2, after 12, after 2, whatever, and then they start taking energy drinks to keep them awake. What do you have to say about that?
I'm fearful of energy drinks. We always say if you take your energy drink or you take your coffee, it is good after your 2 hours of driving. But in that animation we did on driver tiredness, we also said there are no quick fixes. There is no quick fix for driver tiredness. Your body simply needs to rest. So stop, have your drink, but walk around, do some exercises, that will help you. Don't gamble or don't challenge driver fatigue. You will lose.
How often should one be taking a break on the long road? And I'm thinking specifically if you're driving through the Karoo or the Natal Midlands, whatever, and it's midday and it's scorching hot, you're going to feel sleepy. What's your tip in that situation?
The basic guideline is always about 200 kilometers or 2 hours. It's interesting, if you drive here from Joburg, I think it's not by accident that you find these big rest stops like in Kroonstad, Bloemfontein, Colesberg, Three Sisters, when you find it after Beaufort West. So I think it's not by accident. The petroleum companies also knows.
It's been planned deliberately.
About 2 hours and depending on the speed that you drive at, but 2 hours or 200 kilometers about.
You mentioned dash cams a little while ago, and also suggesting that it could help you if there is an incident, but how legal is it?
Dash cams is totally legal. The nice thing is, if there is a challenge, and also only about 50% of vehicles on our roads are almost insured. So you have to take on the driver.
Only 30%.
Only 30%.
Frightening.
Yeah, frightening. So you are in a battle, most likely, with the driver of the other vehicle. And when it becomes a he says, she says, if there are no other witnesses. So your dash cam may provide that evidence of what really happened. Also, unfortunately, and we must admit, we do still find corruption in the traffic environment. I myself, I was at a meeting near City Deep in Johannesburg earlier this year. And as I came driving across onto the M1 as well, a traffic officer stopped me and said, "Sir, you crossed that barrier line." I said, "No, I didn't. I have a dashboard camera here." And the traffic officer said, "Just go." So unfortunately, even in incidents like that, your dashboard camera will not only record what has happened, but can also record your conversation with the traffic officer to ensure that you do not bear the brunt of any corrupt activities. So that will also help you.
In wrapping up, are there any other important issues that you want to leave our viewers with? Very especially, and this is not called silly season for nothing, because we throw caution to the winds, and we really think that we're invincible and everything's going to go our way. So what would perhaps 3 very important rules of the road that you ought to know and observe all of the time?
Yeah. First of all, obey all the rules of the road. Then drive at a safe speed. It may need to be much below the speed limit. Don't see the speed limit as a target. Look at the traffic, the road, and the weather conditions. I think most important as well, like we emphasized, be patient. Remember that road safety is a team activity. We all want to reach our destination, and sometimes you have to allow somebody else a bit of extra space as well. Don't try to prove to somebody who has perhaps made a mistake overtaking that he's doing so incorrectly and unsafely. There are no winners in road crashes.
We're going to wrap up now, but let me ask you this question. We've talked about dash cams, and if you do have an irresponsible driver on the road, you've got the evidence and you can possibly report him. Will there be punitive action against him, and would you be expected to go to court, number one, and number two, very quickly, if you don't have a dash cam, is it a pointless exercise trying to prove that he was reckless?
Difficult question, good question. The National Traffic Call Centre, 0861 400 800. Through them you can report bad driving. Now, if it is a court matter, then you would have to testify. But what I still think there is value in the fact that once you provide evidence or you provide a report, the National Traffic Call Centre will send that person a letter to say, "Listen, sir, you have registered vehicle owner of this vehicle, have been found to have committed this violation at this speed. We just want to inform you that your name is on record." Something which I've personally experienced. We had a trucking company where the truck was skipping the red light, or a bit of just after the light turned red. And for one evening at 100 hours, 8 o'clock, I got an email, and they also CC'd the company owner to say that, "Listen, his company driver has been found to have done this." And within half an hour, the company owner replied and said, "Thanks a lot, he appreciates this, they need to have this information." Because if that truck did not have a dash cam themselves, if it had the dash cam, they can go back to that footage. But on the other data, they may not have seen or been able to, they would have just seen the truck was driving at 60 kilometers or 60 kilometers an hour. But now, with this evidence, they can institute disciplinary action. And I think this is a very important part. If road users know that there are more eyes on them and eyes on the road than the 18,000 traffic officers nationwide, that may help a bit. If company drivers know, but listen, these footage of dash cams may be part of a disciplinary action, they will adjust their driving and they will follow the rules of the road.
And that's all we have time for. Thank you indeed for making us aware and educating us on Arrive Alive. Please continue keeping up the great work.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you once again. Advocate Johan Young talking Arrive Alive. It is silly season. Please, please, please exercise caution and may you arrive at your destination safely. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Welcome back, and I sincerely hope and pray, inshallah, that you seriously think about all of the information shared with you with Advocate Johan Young regarding safe driving during the holiday periods. But that doesn't mean that you've got to stop the safe driving after the holidays. This is something you've got to take with you every time you get into the car. Make sure that you consider your life, your family's life, and also the third party. We're still in holiday mode. We're still talking about the holidays. We're still talking about the fun times we're going to have, but the impact at this time of year. Lots of families go away, and that also means that older relatives, grannies, granddads, in-laws, outlaws are left alone. They're not, in certain cases, not able to join the family on holiday, and what that does to them when they're home alone. And again, it's the exams are over. Everyone's awaiting results, uni students, including matriculants. And those of you who know that you've not done well, we know that depression is already setting in. How are you going to deal with poor results? How are you going to deal with the fact that you didn't get your dream job? So those are the things that impacts on your mental health. And we know that at this time of year, especially, lots of depression sets in. So let's unpack what is depression, how can you help yourself be healthy, mentally healthy, and how can you avoid situations like deep depression, clinical depression, and possibly even going over the edge and perhaps contemplating or even committing suicide. We've just come out of Mental Health Month, Mental Health Awareness Month, but that doesn't mean that we forget about issues around mental health. We have Anissa Musa from Islamic Care Line. She's a senior social worker there, and we're going to talk mental health and depression, very especially this time of year. Assalamu alaikum, welcome to the program.
Wa alaikum salam to you, Julie, and to all the viewers out there, and happy to be back again.
Lovely to have you back again. It's been quite a while. But of course, it's that time of year where we all seem to be scurrying around and giving out very important messages, messages around mental health, messages around depression, messages around loneliness, messages about support systems, etc. And the list goes on and on and on. But we need to be, I guess, responsible in how we deal with vulnerable friends, family, and relatives.
Yes, definitely. I think, as much as the hype is set on year end and it's summer and it's a nice time and everybody's looking forward to the holidays and just enjoying summer, it's also sometimes a sensitive time for people, and like you mentioned, whether it's the aged, whether it's the youth, even the group of people in between, they have their own set of challenges. Interestingly enough, lots of people suffer from emotional downs in the winter period. There's a whole group of people who struggle when all this excitement is around them, and for whatever reason, they can't join in it.
Exams are over. The uni and matric students are taking a very, very well-deserved break. But there are a couple of issues that would be playing out here as well. That they perhaps know that they haven't done well enough, that they didn't work hard enough, and they are expecting poor results. That's going to sink them very deep into depression, let alone the prospect of not finding a job in the new year, because we know what the youth unemployment rates are all about. And taking all of these factors into consideration, I'm not surprised we're such a depressed nation.
Yes, Julie, you know what, it is difficult out there, I won't lie. I mean, for young people, it's scary for anybody. And you know, when you talk about depression, and we associate depression, stress, anxiety, all those things kind of go hand in hand. And anxiety also comes from any kind of change. So for young people who are going through a transition from, let's say, for example, high school to university, or from university into the work field, or not knowing where they're going to be. And you know, we say lots of fear is associated with the unknown, because you don't know whether you are accepted in university, you don't know if you're going to like university, you don't know if you're going to pass, you don't know if it's the right career choice you've decided on, if you didn't do well and you're disappointed with yourself.
And the financial implications as well.
The financial implications for your parents, or if you got in, do you have a bursary, are you going to be, or do you have a scholarship? So you know, there's a wide range of factors to look into, but you know, we've been focusing a little bit on some of the other discussions that we've had around stresses that young people go through, the suicide rate, the pressure that they have to undergo, whether it's from society, whether it's from family members, whether it's from peers who are doing better. You know, South Africa, and also I think in our affluent Muslim communities, and I'm going to say this because I know we hear it a lot, that this certain expectation, and that's one of the things also that causes depression, specifically around this topic, is what we call unrealistic expectations, whether I have it of myself, whether other people have it of me, whether society has it of me, whether my family has it of me. So, and also managing the demands that are being thrown at me. So here I am, I'm not sure what is it that I'm doing, and people are telling me different things, but also there's a great deal of pressure on young people to be successful, to have the right image, to choose the right career, to be wearing the right thing, to be driving the right car. And it's really, really great. And that impacts on self-esteem. And we've been talking about mental health, and Mental Health Month has just passed us, and we spoke about not even disorders, but just general mental health. And it's so important that people love themselves first and be able to look at the positives rather than the negatives. But we'll unpack some of the things that you spoke about around not being what you wanted to be, or not being able to do what you wanted to do going forward.
You speak about disorders as opposed to in the same breath as you speak about mental health. What's the difference? And of course there's a stigma as far as mental health is concerned. I think we need to become real, and we need to say, throw the stigmas out of the window. It's about you. You need to get well, and you need to ask for help. So let's look at disorders. And I'm also wondering, you spoke anxiety. If you're an overly anxious person and all of this stuff is kind of getting you down, do you ask for help? And if you don't ask for help, is that anxiety then going to translate into depression?
Okay, so just to look at some of the things. So your first part is, if we compare disorder or dysfunction with normal mental health, for me, mental health is your overall mental functioning, whether it be because you have a mental disorder or you don't. But it includes positivity, it includes your outlook on life, it includes your emotional well-being, it includes your self-image, how you view yourself, your self-perception, whether you're able to use your coping skills effectively, whether you are living to your potential. Are you happy with who you are at the end of the day? Where does your self-worth comes from? And that's a very relevant topic, especially now when we talk about the holidays and the depression and that, because often that kicks in because we're not happy. We set these expectations and we think, okay, holiday, December means a fancy holiday either overseas or locally or whatever. Or it includes
keeping up with the Joneses.
But we all have these expectations because now it's year end, I finish exams, or we close at work, it's a restful time. But it doesn't need to be. I think what's important is that for people to ask themselves, what is it that I want to get out of this holiday, right? Do I want to rest? Do I want to do something different? Do I want to spend it with my family and friends? And, we also talk about using yourself as a resource. You know, often what happens is we sit back and we wait for other people to make it happen for us, right? And that's part of goal setting. It's part of setting realistic expectations. So even bringing in the youth, right? And when we talk about, okay, so I haven't done as well at school. Okay, so I can't go back. But what is it that I can do with the results that I have? What plan can I offer myself and my family if I need to be accountable for it? What is it that I can substitute? What are my alternatives? So that's part of healthy goal setting also, is to identify what is my need that goes deeper than just the goal. So once we understand what our need is, we can set goals. So what I'm saying is we need to be a bit resourceful. And again, even if family is not around and you know you're going to be alone, there's nothing stopping you from making friends or doing a good deed for somebody else. You mentioned the elderly. There's lots of elderly people who are lonely.
We'll come to that after the ad break, but what I also want to touch on after the ad break is what you're saying is absolutely magical, but that's a person who doesn't have mental health issues or isn't already spiraling down into depression. So let's look at what is depression and how we can look for help. Don't go away. Anisa Musa is my guest. She's from Islamic Care Line, and we're talking depression, very especially this time of year. Lots of people are going to be left alone at home. The entire neighborhood's going to be on holiday, and they're going to be feeling very, very alone and possibly even sorry for themselves. Let's see what we can do. Let's give them the tools to be able to feel good about themselves. And for those people who are really deep into depression, let's give them some numbers to try and get the right help. We're talking depression, we're talking about how you can recognize the symptoms, and if you've noticed your loved one displaying those symptoms, then please, please, please call for help. There's lots of resources available to you. Perfect scenario is what you've talked about, goal setting, and I'm glad you shared that with us, because young people can start applying their minds and understand the importance of goal setting. But when someone's depressed, when someone's in a dark place, what are the signs and symptoms, and what can we do? We can't take it away. We can't minimize their situation, but I think there are resources available.
Okay, so Julie, what we like to distinguish between is sadness and depression, right? We all get sad at some point, and we all also get depressed at some point, right? Whether things are not going the way we wanted or we're disappointed about something, right? So even people without being diagnosed depressive can be sad and they can be depressed, right? But where there's depression, often there's a chemical imbalance, and therefore people would take antidepressants. But just on a general note, anyone who's taking antidepressants should get some kind of counseling, because we don't want to encourage the use of medication and dependence on it without addressing issues and without giving them also skills. So it doesn't mean that someone is depressed that they can't apply some of the things that I've mentioned also, because you know, we say mind over matter, we say it's about also developing your mind. Even when, you know, simple thing like you meet up in an accident and you need to go for physio, and even though you're saying, oh, my leg is sore, I can't move it, what will the physiotherapist do? They'll massage it, they'll move it, they'll bend it, they'll make you exercise, they'll make you walk. So you have to use your
positive thinking,
your skills, and you have to use your functioning effectively, right? So yes, people who are depressive, they struggle with it, but it's not that they cannot teach themselves little things. So I would start with simple things like self-care. Do things for yourself that you like, right? And also learn to develop your own self as a resource, your own resource, right?
But obviously, Anissa, when people are either clinically depressed and chronically depressed for that matter, they're not going to be able to see the wood for the trees. So let's look at the difference between those two depressive states. They should be asking for help, because if they don't, they can push themselves over the edge, resulting in possibly suicide.
Yes, but this is what I'm saying is that you remember, you can't help someone who doesn't want to be helped, right? So family members also need to provide support, right? But a simple thing like I said, with self-care, it's about simply eating properly. If you are on medication, take your medication, do nice things for yourself. That's what you can do in your limited capacity without being bombarded or putting pressure on yourself and what's happening outside of you, right? But also to surround yourself with people, not to be alone all the time. Try not to, if you, like you said, Julie, you've been emphasizing the fact that if you need help, get it. Ask for it. Say, you know what, I'm struggling, or I need this. And you were speaking about, so, but one of the...
Does a depressed person have the energy to even ask for help?
They can. But it also depends on the support structures around them. If they have someone to ask help from, right? And unfortunately, some people don't have that. And that's why it's so important for us as family members to learn about the different disorders so that I'm in a position to support them and I know what kind of support they need. Because I might think that the person needs support in this particular way, but that's not what they need. So it's important to understand what it is they need. And one of the very common symptoms of depression is withdrawal. So they would tend to sit in their own corner and they might not say much and you're not sure what is it that they want, right? And sometimes they like being left to themselves, or not like it, but they find themselves more comfortable just being by themselves than mixing with others.
With younger people, obviously, if you're concerned about their behavior and you suspect perhaps they're in deep depression and you put out a helping hand, they may not want that because they're in such a dark corner that they'll push you away, or they believe that you're being intrusive. Can you perhaps then consult with one of these support organizations like Lifeline, like SADC, like Islamic Care Line, though I do know that you guys will be closed for a short period over the December holidays, but you're there, otherwise you're there all the time. But just to get someone to talk to the person and try and draw him or her out, and for them to realize that there is a helping hand. They can talk to someone and hopefully start their journey to healing.
Definitely, there are resources out there. The Islamic Care Line will be very happy to help. If not, there's call centers, there's Lifeline, like you mentioned, there's SADC. But also on that point, just to mention, sometimes when we want to offer someone and you talk about roping them or getting them out of that dark space that they're in. And I do this when we do counseling as well, especially with children. We don't need to force people to talk about their issues and say, I know you're struggling and I want to help. You don't need to do that.
What's the best approach?
All you have to do
Yes.
is just be there, laugh, talk about the weather, talk about something that happened, just to make that connection, to get them to have, so then they're not pressurized to feel like, okay, I'm the problem, this is a dark space.
But how do you indicate to the person that I know you're going through a bad time, I know you're in a dark corner, I want to help, without being pushy?
That's what you did now. You just say to them, I know that you're struggling, but I'm here for you if you need. And I want to help you. Even if you say, I want to help you, but I don't know how.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's
so
beautiful.
Tell me, I need you to tell me what you need.
Okay, I've been talking to someone recently, also from the Islamic Care Line. We were talking about a suicide and the fact that the suicide rates are creeping up in our community, which was possibly totally unheard of 50 and 30 and 20 years ago. Because we as Muslims believe that life is sacred. We're not meant to be taking our own lives, but the sad situation is that if a person is in such a helpless, hopeless situation, in such a dark hole, they can't even reason to say, I'm doing the wrong thing. And for them, the answer is suicide. Are there any signs that we can look out for?
Okay, now just what you mentioned, Nine, I think for me it's very important to say this, is that when we say they're in the dark corner and life is not worth living.
How do we know?
It's perceived. That's what I'm saying. It's perceived. It's not the reality. It may or may not be, but it's their reality. Because they may have family around them who care about them. They may have friends. They have their health maybe. Maybe they have their physical health. Maybe they have wealth, material wealth. But they can't see beyond that. They don't see, but that's why, when at the beginning of the program, I spoke about self-worth and self-nurturing and all of that, and we spoke about mental health being your outlook. And that's what it comes down to is, do I feel I'm worthy of loving? Do I feel my life is worth loving? Or is it so unbearable that I have to end it? And you spoke about suicide rates amongst youth, and I find it really sad, especially in our communities where children, teenagers have everything. And that's why I say it's perceived, because their parents have given them materially, they have friends, they have an education, they have their health, they have everything what we perceive it from the outside, right? But they don't see that. What they focus on is the fact that my girlfriend broke up with me, or my boyfriend broke up with me. I'm not worth loving. I'm not good looking enough. I'm not successful enough, right? So we tend to focus on our failures, right? Rather than to be grateful for the things that we do have, right? But it's about that perception that you have, and it's about finding even one thing that's worth loving for.
Okay, we're going for an ad break. When we come back, I just want to understand how you articulate. So I perceive that my loved one's in a very, very dark space, but without being intrusive, I want my loved one to know that the helping hand is out there. I just want to know, what are those 3-4 very crucial signs that I need to look out for, and then intervene and perhaps save my loved one. And then we'll talk the elderly as well. We're talking depression and suicide on the show this morning. It's that time of year. Lots of people are going to be staring failure straight in the face. Lots of people are going to be left all alone, while the rest of the family and community out on holiday having a wonderful time. And here's poor me sitting in a dark corner. Nobody loves me. Nobody's put out a helping hand to me. And what do I think of? Well, perhaps I should just end it all. We want to prevent that, and we want you to know that there are resources available. SADC, a call away. Lifeline, which is just a call away, and so is Islamic Care Line. And failing all else, a concerned relative, a parent, a brother, sister, or a neighbor. Please don't think you're alone in this. There is help out there. All you need to do is just shout. And we're into the final segment of our show this morning. We're talking depression and suicide. Anissa Musa from Islamic Care Line is in studio with me. Anissa, there's got to be 2 or 3 specific signs that can indicate that this person is in the depths of depression. How can I help? Possibly prevent the person from perhaps committing suicide.
Okay, with suicide, it tends to get a little bit complicated. I always think of that actor Robin Williams. He was a well-known comedian.
Absolutely.
And he committed suicide. So one thing with suicide is things don't always look as they seem. They not always are as they seem, right? And sometimes someone might cry out, I'm going to take my life, I'm going to commit suicide.
I hate my life.
That could be, like you said, it could be a call for help, because they really don't. And the reality is that most people don't really want to take their lives, right? It's desperation, it's feeling this heaviness that life is unbearable, right? So going back to people who would make comments about suicide, they are usually
suicide.
The ones that are calling out for help. Never take a suicide threat lightly, right? Always take every suicide mention or discussion very, very seriously, right?
What do you do in a situation like that? Do you kind of get them to a doctor or a psychologist or a psychiatrist ASAP, because they're going to then be able to talk, to offload, to suggest where they are and why they're feeling so heavy?
Now that's a good thing, because that's when it's a cry for help. You can say, okay, you know what, I can hear that you don't want to commit suicide, you want help. Let's see. And we use something even like a suicide suicide contract. So we get the person to understand that while you're here and you're coming in for help, we're not going to attempt anything for now, right? So we have this agreement that you're not going to attempt until we explore ways where you can improve things and you don't feel this heaviness anymore, right? Then when it comes to attempted suicide, that also we can't take lightly, because it may be, like you say, a cry for help or attention seeking, but we don't know that. It could be just that my attempt went botched, right? And I really wanted to commit suicide. So that's also very, very sensitive, and you need to tread carefully around that and offer the person. But usually with a person like that, you can't leave them alone. So if they've attempted suicide, try as far as possible not to leave someone who's attempted suicide alone at any time.
I'm just thinking the burden on the loved one as well. Just imagine the anxiety you're going through knowing that your loved one attempted suicide, and there's a possibility, if left alone, he or she is going to go through with it.
That's another topic also we can look at separately, because it's the burden of that. It's also some people feel responsible that we are the family members, and why is our family member struggling with suicide? So the guilt, the feeling responsible, the feeling helpless, the feelings of helplessness that goes with it, because you don't know what you can do for this person. But there are things that you can do. You can show them, and you were saying, so what do I say to the person? And like you say, you know what, I would really like to help you. I want to know how, but tell me how. Listen to them. Be a listening ear. Show them love. Show them support. Get to know them, aside from saying, oh, this person is like a china glass and that they're going to break. Be sensitive, but also get to know them, love them. Like I said, show them emotion, show them compassion. Also, you would look for withdrawal. You would, it's like how you say, someone committed suicide, and then all of a sudden I remember, oh, they said something like this, or they said something like that, and I didn't pick up on it at the time. And we tend to reflect back on what they said.
And then the guilt the family members have to carry for the rest of their lives, because the loved one left behind believes that I have failed him or her, and I'm going to carry this for the rest of my life.
I think as Muslims also, we need to understand that we can do our best, and we're accountable to ourselves, we're accountable to our Creator. But all the outcomes are not in our hands. We can try our best to prevent a suicide. We can try our best. If we're happy that we've done our all, then Allah knows best. In some ways, maybe that person was in too bad a state mentally to even think rationally that led them to that. But I'm not saying that we can't do anything about it. So when we look at warning signs, and that is why, a lot of our programs recently, the focus, and I know I mentioned it a lot about self-esteem. That's something we nurture from young children to build their confidence, to help them see their self-worth. Even though a disorder may be chemically responsible for a disorder, or whether it's genetics or whatever, it's like with, let's say for example, with diabetes, right? So you have a physical condition, but if you from a young age, you're in the habit of eating correctly, and you exercise, and you have, again, the same thing with mental health versus physical health. If your lifestyle is well balanced, then at least the management of your sickness can be better. So in the same way with your mental health, if you have the support structures, if you have coping skills, if your confidence was built, and you have a disorder, even if it's a mental disorder, somehow you have some skill, but you also have the support that goes with it.
And as long as your loved one who is suffering from depression knows that he or she has a support system to fall back on, and as long as you've done your level best in supporting the loved one, then the rest is in Allah's hands. But there is help available. There is SADC, Lifeline, and Islamic Care Line. Let's look at the elderly. It's a difficult time of year when, for whatever reason, the older people in the community or in the families are not able to go with the rest of the family on holiday. It's a very sad time of year for them as well, because they probably reflect back in time and think, had I been younger, had I been more able, had I been financially in a better position, I could have gone along with my loved ones. How do we deal with them? What do we do to make them still feel loved and a part of the family?
Okay, so our elderly are also our responsibility, like our children. They've sacrificed to raise us and to give us the kind of lives that we have, alhamdulillah. So I think
sadly, not all children view it that way. They believe it's either the eldest son or the eldest daughter's responsibility, and the rest of them go on their merry way.
You know, we touched on this on one of our programs as well, in terms of the responsibility shared by elder siblings, by adult siblings, right? And again, this comes into play. It's not one child's responsibility to see to parents, right?
It's everyone's
it's a
parents.
shared responsibility, right? So touching on the topic that we're discussing today around the holidays, and that maybe when we plan our holidays, to keep in mind what's going to happen to the person who's staying with them or not staying with them, but the elderly. So either your holidays will accommodate for them, or if it can't, there's times you want to go on holiday without, let's say for example, you just want to go with your spouse and your children or whatever,
normal.
And that's normal.
Natural.
But I think we need to be responsible enough to make a suitable arrangement so that your elderly parent is not left alone or by themselves. So take turns. Maybe if you're 2 or 3 siblings, say, okay, when I'm going for this week, then mommy or daddy will stay with you, or the other way around, or something like that, so that they're not left without any care. So, and sometimes we can make their holidays pleasant. What do old people today value more than even going on holiday?
Just being surrounded by their loved ones.
Right, and their children and their grandchildren. So sometimes it's just about showing them that they are important to you and that you spend your time around them, so they can have the house full of their children and their grandchildren. It's not about going to Durban or Cape Town or overseas or to Europe or whatever it is. It's just about their family, because at the end of the day, like you say, for young people, maybe traveling and all of that is important, maybe at a different stage. And I'm not saying it's the case with all people, but most old people enjoy the comfort of their homes, but they evaluate more when their family is around them. They need to feel like no matter how old they are, and no matter how incapacitated they are, it's based on people have not forgotten about them. And so on that note, on the other side, there's even old age homes and places where elderly people are neglected. So in the holiday, if you do have time and you feel, I'm also going through a depression, I also don't have my family, I'm also alone, and you're younger and all of that, go out to an old age home, go and do something nice. That's another thing about feeling better about yourself, is doing something nice for somebody else so that they feel good, and seeing the smile on somebody else's face can also give you, and there's this inner fulfillment. So this is what I'm trying to say. I know that it's aside from the disorders and the dysfunction, but on a conscious level, there's lots of things that we can do for ourselves and for others, whether we be the support structure, or whether we do it for ourselves and we self-care, or whatever it is, or whether we set goals or we change our outlook. There's lots of things we can do if we try, even at this holiday time.
And if you do have older relatives in your family or your community, then take a bit of time out, a half an hour or an hour spent with them. Make them a little, treat them to a nice home-cooked meal, or bake them a cake, or take along their favorite goodies, and just make them feel special. Their du'as are absolutely immeasurable, and you are uplifting and lighting up someone's life.
Definitely. I hear often people will say that they're living with their grandparents and stuff. The older people love to tell stories. Never mind you telling them a story or you talking to them. Just listening, just sitting there and giving them your undivided attention does wonders for them. And just on that note, no matter what your age, whether it's a child, whether it's an adult, whether it's an elderly person, but the value of giving someone undivided attention, even a depressed person. Julie, I can't tell you what that does. I mean, we can be sitting here,
uplifting.
and if I listen to you attentively, you're going to feel like what you are saying means something to this person. You mean something to this person. So always, whenever, no matter whether it's holiday period, whether it's not holiday period, no matter what you're doing, it's so important to give somebody that little bit of attention, and it does wonders.
And that's where we have to leave it. Shukran very much for being with us on the show this morning. And there you have it. Anissa Musa from Islamic Care Line says it's all about a little bit of care, a little bit of love, and absolutely undivided attention. The person will feel so valued, so loved, and so cared for. So if you're not going away this holiday time, and if you have an elderly relative in your midst, please make them loved, make them feel that they are special. Do a little thing for them, just something small, a special meal, tiny little meal, perhaps a bunch of flowers or a little cake or a slab of chocolate, and they are going to feel so special, and you're going to truly make it a magical day or a magical time for them. And on that note, thank you indeed for being with us. We hope and pray, we make dua inshallah, that we don't hear about loneliness, we don't hear about depression, but if we do know that you can reach out to a caring, a family member, either to SADC, Islamic Care Line, or Lifeline. There's always someone at the end of the line to listen to you and to hold your hand through a very dark time. Till the next time, as always, thank you for being with us on the show, and a big thank you to the Let's Talk production team. And as always, take care on the roads. It is Assalamu Alaikum and Khudafiz from me, Julie Ali.
Ya hala, 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 ya hala. حن قلبي على جمعة الخير هلا، حن قلبي على جمعة الخير هلا. يا هلا ويا هلا ويا هلا ويا هلا، يا هلا ويا هلا ويا هلا ويا هلا، يا هلا ويا هلا ويا هلا ويا هلا، يا هلا.